Hello and welcome to another test stream on Twitch. This time I'm going to be looking at some Space Invaders related material because it was brought to my attention that it is Space Invaders' 42nd birthday today, and it's one of the oldest arcade games people really remember, and for good reason. It's got that iconic Space Invaders design, and a few games before it really had the characters as such that people remember. And it was cloned a lot, and there's all the urban legends that I don't need to go into about shortages of coins and the like when it came out. So yeah, it's quite a significant game, and so on the 42nd birthday I'll be looking at the original and some of the sequels and clones. The one on the screen right now is the Space Invaders Deluxe DX on the Taito F2 hardware, which was Taito, even their own compilation, released in '94, and it's a basic game and then some rethemed versions. But yeah, let's have a look at them. So the basic game is in here. You get the different modes. So let's just play the colour version. And here we go. So you can't really go wrong with this release if you just want a playable version of the game. Looks and sounds good. I'm sure everybody understands the basic gameplay and techniques, like trying to clear the ones on the edge away. That allows them to move further over each time and slows the descent. This was the original game was 1978, and before that most games were just time-based. You put in a coin, you played for a set amount of time and got a score, whereas this one, there's more challenge and skill involved. You play for as long as you can survive. Even in emulation circles, the original Space Invaders, not this version, is one that's been used as a starter project for many people because you're just emulating the basic 8080 processor and a frame buffer, so draw what's basically a black and white bitmap, and there's not much else to it for basic emulation. The real challenge, of course, comes with the sound, which is all discrete circuits, but if you're just doing a basic project, you'll most likely be using sound samples. Not sure it's the ideal starter project because you don't learn that many techniques from it, but it's probably better than some other alternatives that you might find too complex at first. Yeah, better stop playing some of these bottom line, because yeah, if they get to the bottom, you lose. But I'm almost dead anyway. I'm not actually great at Space Invaders, like most games. There we go, that was the basic game in Space Invaders Deluxe DX. But it's also got the parody game mode, which looks fairly normal for here. But then you've got characters from New Zealand Story in this case. It's a new little twist on it, really. It's the same game. But I guess anybody who's played these other Taito classics, such as the New Zealand story, will find some appeal in playing this. There are lots of different themes. I'm not going to go through them all. I'll try and clear this level at least. The New Zealand story is also a very good game. It's actually one of my favourites. So, if you do ever want to check out something, it doesn't really feel like an arcade game because it's big levels, maze-like structure, exploring and secrets. And yeah, the New Zealand story is a good game. Maybe better known for some of the home ports back in the day. Strange one too, because there's so many different versions and there's at least 3 different sets of levels, one prototype and then old and new ones, and but yeah, this isn't really meant to be about New Zealand story. You're not going to get to see the next level because that was a disaster. What else have we got here? Yeah, the versus game in this one. You need 2 players. Yeah, you need 2 players for this. I can't play this on my own. I tried to make it a competitive game where you choose certain ones and climb. This is unique to this release. It's a nice little bonus, but there's no computer option, so without a second player, okay. Right, let's quit out of that one and have a look at something else. Delete title. Yep, there we go. Right, this one is a little trick I'm going to show you. What is it called? Space Invaders Anniversary. This one is marked as not working in main, and it's a PlayStation based game from 2003. Advanced PlayStation, I mean 100 MHz processor and the like, but it's on GNet hardware. And it will boot like this, and it will not actually get to gameplay, it will just reset. However, if I run it with cheats on and go into slider controls and underclock the main CPU to about 75%, wait a little bit, it should then no, move it lower. Okay, this worked earlier. It's a very odd one to try and get working. You can get it working by playing with the overclock slider. Doesn't want to do it right now. Anyway, I made a save state earlier. And yeah, I don't know why the overclock trick didn't work there, but sometimes it does. Still that annoying message on the screen, but yeah, this was another anniversary, quite an old one, 25th as it says. And it's got this Space Invaders 3D mode in it, which is again a bit different. I've got that overclock trick all prepared and tested before the stream, and it worked fine there, and it doesn't work now. But you know, I made a save state, so we're all good. Here we go. So yeah, Space Invaders, a nice sort of behind the playfield look. It does a little bit, yeah. This came out a fair bit earlier. You can see that Taito is trying to keep it fresh. Make it appeal to new players a little bit. Definitely need to look into why this doesn't boot in the first place. I think it's some sort of race condition. Because once you get it booted, it does work. This is intense. Problem is you can't see much because of there we go. Because of the viewpoint, so that part where it gets fast is really tricky. Is he pretty good at this then? I've not seen him play that many Invaders style games. I don't know how many the CPC has really. I was looking at the Spectrum one I built with earlier. I might put that on later, but that's not an official one, that's just a clone that a lot of people have. Anyway, that's this mode. I don't think this changes much. Yeah, I did watch the Dangerous Seed stream. I was actually underwhelmed by the Mega Drive version of that at first, but I guess it holds up alright for one of the smaller games, but I'm not sure why they didn't just use the arcade on the competition, because it seems a much better version. Yeah, what else was it? So you've got your original versions, just like the other compilation. There's an extra version of the 3D one apparently. Let's have a look at this. I think this is just more colourful. It's got background graphics and yeah, a few more colours. It's still going to be the same game though, but it looks a bit nicer. I'm not sure this was in the arcades outside of Japan. The only version we have is a Japanese one. But obviously there's no real language barrier, so if somewhere had it imported, you're probably not going to notice. It's Space Invaders. So yeah, that's the 25th anniversary one then, which seems appropriate to have a look at for the current birthday. Oh, I forgot to put the title in. Of course, I'm going to have to get used to that. So what else have we got? I should probably look at the original, shouldn't I? The actual original. I've got the artwork set up here, yeah. Space Invaders. There we go. That's better. So yeah, with MAME you can find the artwork file and have it looking a little bit more like the big cabinet with the planet background. And if you've ever seen one in reality, it's a rather impressive sight. Now you'll notice the sounds are quite different to the version we just played, and that is always something of a controversial subject with all these discrete games, because the schematics show it to work one way, the components age over time, the sound's always going to be a bit different, and a lot of people say this isn't how it's meant to sound. But then we find, boards that do sound like this, and this agrees with the schematics, but is that because somebody's prepared it based on that? I don't know. But yeah, this is overlays rather than actual colour. UFOs is very loud. And there's not really much else to say about it. I mean, some of the clone ones would potentially use lower quality components, but it's all just circuits on this. It's not a CPU for the sound, so generally they just clone them, and you'll find a lot of the clone boards just have the same circuitry. Not all of them have got the sound hooked up in main because just copy pasting it, and ideally you want proof of what was on there. But it's also possible it's like the whole Bookman Pac-Man thing where the US version got different sound to the original and then they decided to change it over time. I don't know, it's a bit outside my field of knowledge, the discrete sound stuff. But it's Pac-Man, it's Space Invaders. That's one of the nice little things about Space Invaders too. You've got the little invader that comes and flips the letter around on the title screen, which gives it a bit more personality. Again, that's something a lot of games before this didn't have anything like that, so it becomes easy to really see why this one took off. Anyway, that's the original. Now let's delete that from the list and that from the list. Let's have a look at something a bit different. How's this going to work? What about an N-Trex handheld? This is a little LCD handheld. Let's see how this works. Okay, so this is basically a toy you could buy. Jump straight into the game. LCD toy by N-Trex. I think this was a licensed one because back then the Taito were pushing the game just as much as they do today, really. You buy all sorts of licensed products, and I don't know if this was a licensed one. I think it was. See, it's very primitive, but this is what you really had for handheld games back, when was it? 1980. So, 2 years after the game came out, if you wanted to play it at home, something like this was one of your options. Looking at the graphics, it doesn't look very similar, so maybe this wasn't a licensed one. I don't know, I've not actually researched that. Also called Space Invader, not Invaders. But you know, again, I'm looking at things that Space Invaders influenced, and this would be one of them, one of the clone products, and it's perfectly playable. But, UFO, it flashes there. Spend hours just playing something like this. I've not again, I've not done the game hour. There we go. Yeah, I was quite tempted to include that one, but I fired it up earlier and I thought I really don't want to spend any time on this. Space Invaders 91 on the CPC. Considering how basic the gameplay is, it doesn't hold up when it's that slow. Don't know how to actually start. You have to reset this to start a new game every time. This one is so simple, they're just using the actual Invader graphics as the bullets as well. But when you're playing it, you don't really notice. I wonder if there was a proper licensed one. We don't emulate all these handheld games, so I just looked up Space Invader and picked one, which was this one. It's alright. It's one of the things we've been doing recently is quite a few of these handheld games, and they've got their place in history. Let's close that one then. And delete the title. Knock that off my list. Right, something more modern and rather terrible. Here's a device from sometime in the 2000s, not sure when, which did carry an official Taito license. The VG Pocket Caplet Fast Acting 50-in-1, which really does sound more like a medicine than a gaming handheld. It's, yeah. It's quite something for them to get Space Invaders this wrong. You'll see. Nice, impressive looking title with the official license text. And Space Invaders being the first one in the menu. And yes, the Buster Move port is just as bad, but we're not looking at that today. So, while it says Space Invaders, it does show it as Space Invaders Part 2. They're fairly easy to get hold of. Some people overcharging a bit for them because I think it's got the Space Invaders name on, but you can get one on eBay fairly easily. They pop up every now and again. But yeah, first of all, the way the invaders scroll down like that, that never happens in the real game. And again, they scroll down, they just slide down at the edge of the screen. And this is, you know, sometime in the 2000s, well after the game's been emulated for years, when there's plenty of references available. And you get this weird thing. It just feels like they've never actually played Space Invaders, just seen a video of it. And most of the sounds aren't there. I know everything moves at almost laggy half frame rate. Your bullets don't update smoothly. I struggle to understand this one, and especially why the Taito would actually agree and let this be released with the license. It just doesn't feel right. But it's something that exists, something that we emulated recently. It runs on one of the Sunplus processors, so the same as a lot of the plug-in TV games. I noticed it was listed on a lot of the Wikipedia articles and stuff like that. Strangely, it's the port of the original Space Invaders, not Part 2. So it's got a place in history as an official port, but it's not a good one. Nothing animates right. It moves. The Sonic Genesis thing on the GBA, yeah. That is... people aren't joking when they say that one's bad. Same year as Sonic 06, wasn't it? Not a good year in Sonic history. But, I mean, if you want a version of Space Invaders on the go, it's playable. But why is it feel so far from the source? Anyway, there is a... See, that was an officially licensed thing, and what I'm going to put on now is actually on basically the same hardware, but as a plug-in TV game. It's a multi-game unit, and this wasn't licensed. And it's all reskinned, but if we scroll up, I covered this on my site recently. there's lots of things with stolen graphics in here. It's see, Colony 7, they've even used the original Taito title for that one. Mars Rescue's Lunar Rescue, and then we've got Invaders. Doesn't look like Space Invaders, but it plays so much better. It's got the proper sounds recorded, the enemies move as they should, and it feels like what should be an official port to the game, just with the graphics swapped out. But yeah, no license for this one, and it's very unusual because this specific version of Space Invaders hasn't shown up in any of the other units, just this MGT-21 from Germany. So I don't know what the story is behind it. I have a theory that maybe it was being developed as a port, and then they lost the license, so it just got reskinned, but it's a mystery. I'm glad it turned up and we've emulated it, because there's clearly somebody knows the story behind it, and maybe one day it will surface. That's why we keep our eyes out for these things, these random devices that may or may not have something interesting on them. But this plays much better than the official port we just saw. Yeah, I think a lot of projects get canned, and some of them will see the light of day in other forms. I was doing a bit of research on the CJ the Elephant game that I was playing on the Specky stream, and apparently the fourth game in that series on the C64 did end up released in unfinished form with a different name, or I think given away maybe on a cover disc. But you can still tell it was originally part of that series. Worked on things myself that have never seen the light of day. It's frustrating because you can put a lot of work into things and then they get canned for whatever reason. So it's good. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the best thing on this compilation. Right, where next? I've had a look at that. I've had a look at that. What should we have a look at now? This one's not very well emulated, unfortunately, but it's an interesting one. This one's quite loud. The Virtual Boy got a Space Invaders game, and yeah, this is very loud. Yeah, I mean, in terms of red handhelds, there's the Adventure Vision 2, which I think makes this look good. But I don't know if you can really call the Virtual Boy a handheld. If I crack it, yeah, there we go. The Virtual 3D mode, unfortunately, doesn't really work in MAME for this. I'll show you it, but it's broken. It'd be nice if we went and fixed it sometime, but this is similar, but in my opinion, probably a better presentation in terms of 3D, because it just tips it slightly, and I guess with the real thing it'll look good, but unfortunately, in MAME, all the bullets are invisible, which does make it very difficult, because you can't play it. But it's something that maybe I should look into fixing, but I don't really know. Is it a CPU bug? Is it a video rendering bug? In terms of red, I guess there were reasons, but yeah, this is one I'd like to play in MAME, but it doesn't work properly. However, it does contain the classic game version. That works fine and plays as you'd expect. I'm not sure it's really what you would have considered a killer app for the Virtual Boy back in the day. It didn't really have any killer apps, but if you wanted Space Invaders, this is a perfectly okay port that plays as you'd expect. Yeah, the Virtual Boy emulation seems very loud. I've noticed. I'm trying to keep the slides in the right place. There's lots of things to be monitoring. Yeah, I'll turn this right down. It's just Space Invaders sound. You're not missing anything with it. But, this one is very close in terms of gameplay to the original. Part of me wonders if it's a direct code translation. I don't think it'll be emulated because the Virtual Boy's not got that type of CPU power. But it plays well. It's just, yeah, you'd probably not want to play it for too long because it's on the Virtual Boy and it's all in red. But yeah, again, it's a licensed game. So, where are we? We look at. I'm going to look at something that's definitely not Space Invaders next, but it fits. This is Taito's Pop and Pop. And yeah, it doesn't look like Space Invaders, and it isn't Space Invaders. I'll turn this up again now, can't I? There we go, that should be better. But the reason I'm wanting to look at this one is because it is Taito and it's got the Bubble Bobble characters, but the gameplay with this cloud going left and right across the top of the playfield is very clearly influenced by Space Invaders, and it's a subtle nod to the game. I guess they could have themed it with Space Invaders, but then why would the Space Invaders be going up to the cloud the whole time? And they did it with a whole mothership and beam theme. But I think this cutesy theme works, but it definitely has that Space Invaders feel to it. And yeah, this there are a lot of puzzle games that are greatly underrated. Is it Man Maker? That's another one of the ones on the F3 system. I think that got good reviews on the PlayStation, but still nobody really bought it. Yeah. Again, a lot of people don't really know this one, and I'm surprised because it has all the elements you need for a classic puzzle game, and the likes of Puzzle Bobble were incredibly popular. Might be one people start to discover more in a few years. Seeing that with some systems and games lately. The Master System, for example. Nobody really cared about it for a long time, but more recently I'm seeing streams on the old Sonic games and all sorts of other Master System games, especially the Disney ones that were really good, and people seem to have a new appreciation of that system. And things like the CPC, I would have expected anybody to still be playing that these days, but there's a nice little community there around it, and some games have been discovered that people have forgotten about. Yeah, I forgot to change the game. Oh, I changed the game name and forgot to save it. Workflow. Open top. Definitely one people should play, and definitely one with a little bit of Space Invaders influence in there. I'm guessing Kim Justice might end up doing an F3 stream if you haven't already at some point, because there's a platform with a lot of classic games on. Put out that one. Clones. I've got a whole list of clones here from different manufacturers, but they're all going to play very similar. Where shall I begin? Space Fever. I'm going to update the name before I start this time. There we go. Space Fever is Nintendo's take on a Space Invaders game. It's actually 3 games in one. Game C is the plain Space Invaders game, and all the major manufacturers at the time wanted to get in on the Space Invaders craze. They're all slightly different. Many of our original pieces of code, just the exact same concept, and that's the case here. This isn't using any Space Invaders code, it's their own implementation. But the game idea is exactly the same. And I think copyright was a very different thing back then, and if you could make it, you could sell it. It's Nintendo, but it's 70s Nintendo. Yeah, 79. This is Nintendo before Nintendo really did anything that people remember. For Donkey Kong or Mario. Everyone's got to start somewhere. If I kill off the light or just reset, if I look at the other game modes, it does have a bit more variety, and this one's got the 2 waves of enemies that move to the centre and then move to the side. So they have mixed it up a little bit. And there's a sequel called High Splitter that has a different mechanic where there are larger aliens that you shoot and they split in 2. I wasn't initially going to put that one on stream because it seemed to vary a bit too much from the original concept. But yeah, it's as you say, a little underwhelming, which is probably why nobody really remembers them over the original Space Invaders. They didn't make enough of a difference to warrant people talking about them still. I don't know if this has been on any of the recent Nintendo collections. Not really been paying attention to those. But it's a serviceable game in the Space Invaders mould. The graphics are nowhere near as iconic, which I think is one of the things Taito got right. Those original Invaders graphics, they're just chunky enough to feel substantial when you're shooting them. These little almost 8x8 pixel ones with no character don't. But yeah, that was, say, Nintendo's effort. What else we got? The Sega Space Attack. Yeah, let's have a look at Space Attack. I think this one is... Nope, that's the wrong Space Attack. What's the Space Attack? Space Hunting. Sega Space Attack. Blue background. For some reason, quite a few games of the time did use blue backgrounds, so this one moves very quickly. I don't know why. One of the Data East classics is the same in the sense that it uses a blue background. A lot of people reported it over time as an emulation issue, but it's not. They really did go for these very bright blue backgrounds. Yeah, would definitely be a bit dark on a CRT. You've got the black aliens, so then again, they might be much more hidden with a darker background. Maybe that was the point. I really don't know. But again, it doesn't feel like space. It's blue. It really just plays the same. There's not much I'd call innovative about this one. Some of them do have extra subtle features. There's one where the UFO drops extra aliens, but I can't remember which one that is. I'm not sure I've got it on the list. But a lot of these early ones are just like, oh, we need to cash in on this craze, and we're not sure what to do other than copy the game. This one doesn't even get the whole speed up right because it slows down when you're moving. Oh yeah, this one, yeah, you've got the UFO at the end. So yeah, this is the innovation here. You've got the UFO coming at you at the end. But is it really an innovation, or is it just annoying? Yeah, Sega Space Attack. It's Space Invaders by Sega. Again, very early. What else we got? Those have been done. A bunch of these by lesser known companies. Maybe this. Let's have a look at Omori Shuttle Invaders. This Omori, almost completely unknown. And this has got a random service score. It reminds me of the whole pinball table. So yeah, if I get 1,800 points, I'll get a bonus credit, but that's randomized at the start. Seems a bit loud. Again, this one does have its own style, but you can tell they've pretty much just stolen the Space Invaders sprites for some of them. I say Omori didn't really do much, and when their boards show up, they're very expensive. It does look a bit different. The font styles are different. It's calling your vehicle a tank. No, somehow I think that the font changes make it look different. The UFO looks different. And the ship, tank. But yeah, it's not hugely memorable. But there we go. Yeah. Again, they got an extra UFO attack at the end of the round. I think we'll move on from that one. There's not much else to see with it. Cross that off the list. Okay. This one, yeah, this one's slightly different. Well, it's not. It's maybe in terms of hardware, more so than the game. Get to that in a second. What's it called? ATT UK UFO. Attack UFO by Taito Electric Company using a MOS 6502. It's basically VIC-20 hardware, which is a really strange choice for an arcade game. But that's what they used, and it is a Space Invaders clone. The sprites have changed because the resolution here is low. Say this is really home system hardware that has been used for an arcade, and this one is another one that's ridiculously rare. And I think the VIC-20 scene, Commodore scene, has got quite an interest in the board for it because it's related to their systems. Yeah, it's clearly done on the cheap. It plays like Space Invaders, but again, why would you install this in an arcade over Space Invaders or a cheap Space Invaders bootleg, which were readily available? I guess that's why a lot of these are so rare now, though, because people didn't install them, people didn't buy them, they just sat in warehouses, and I mean, this slows down as well. I don't know if it's meant to, but I'd imagine it does. It's just not got the CPU power. Don't think it does anything special. So, more interested in terms of hardware than as a game. There's quite a few that fall into that category. There are actually some that still aren't emulated because they're almost a mix of discrete Pong style hardware and a video chip and a CPU, and some of the logic is done in hardware. It's some Italian ones like that. And again, I don't know why. It would have been far quicker just to copy Space Invaders, and nobody really cared back then. I guess, you've got to credit them for trying to do something original. But when the game's not original, it really doesn't matter anyway. Yeah, Attack UFO. That's that. We'll look at something a bit better. Let's actually have a look at Return of the Invaders. This is a proper sequel. From 1985. 3 Z80s and a Protection MCU, which was dumped a few years ago. Yeah, I saw that. Sounds like a lot of drama over something that should just be a bit of fun. I don't know. It didn't come across as that type of competition where everybody's going to be so serious, but if it was, it was. I wouldn't consider anything that had been done cheating, but if somebody's going to kick up a fuss, they're going to kick up a fuss. Anyway, Return of the Invaders. I think there's some debate over who actually developed this one. I know Taito sold it as a sequel, but I believe, I don't know how loud this is. The meters look okay. But yeah, this does deviate from the formula quite a bit more than some of the other sequels, but it's still got waves of aliens, it's still got the bases, and it's definitely a lot fresher than just rehashing Space Invaders again. I played that, Satan's Hollow. Not that familiar with it. Again, I guess it's another one that is in many ways influenced by this type of game. The charge, no charge shot here. Even Namco's Galaxian and Galaga really have their roots in Space Invaders. I was looking at some things, I'm thinking maybe that's more influenced by them than it was by the original. But yeah, this one's decent enough fun. It was quite heavily bootlegged as well for a long time. The main was running with the bootleg protection device instead of the real one, which meant a few features. I think the flip screen didn't work, for example, because the bootleg didn't implement it properly. But in recent years, a lot of that changed. Ways to read the proper protection devices were found, and boards were sourced again, and all the protection devices, well, not all of them, most of them were properly dumped, and so the games run much closer to how they should in their main versions from the last few years than, say, ones from 20 years ago or so. Yeah, Jake, this one is definitely it definitely looks better than the other ones, because I've been trying to focus more on things that were more directly influenced by the original Space Invaders, whereas this is an official sequel quite a few years later. How you doing anyway, Jake? You all good? I wasn't expecting to see you on the stream, but it's good. It is good to see you on the stream. And now I am getting wiped out. I'm not sure if I should put Space Cyclone on in a bit, because that seems like a spin-off. I know it was included in Taito's recent collection for the 40th anniversary, not long after we actually emulated it, so I don't know if it's another one of those where Taito didn't even have access to the board until we emulated it. Oh dear. But it's didn't seem close enough to Space Invaders to be including that one. All right, well, thank you. I do appreciate it. It's nice to see, people I know in real life paying attention to what I do a little bit, because sometimes it can be quite difficult to just talk about these things because I don't know who's actually interested and who's not. But yeah, this is Return of the Invaders, which is, say, one of the proper sequels. Shall I have another look at another proper sequel? Yeah, I shall do. Not the CPC version, because that would be a bad idea. Super Space Invaders 91. Right. F2 hardware. This is one of the better known versions. There's a Space Invaders 90 on the Mega Drive that's kind of similar. It got some home ports that we don't talk about to the 8-bit systems. But yeah. Here we go. Say this is a few years after Return of the Invaders. So it's a little more polished. Yes, yes it is. But again, the first thing you notice is none of the bases on the first level, so you've got no protection. But again, you've got your same formula. You've got Arcanum style power-ups, and there you get your bases. Which you can fire up the screen like that, if you want to. I'm not sure why so many people remember this one, actually. It's, to me, it's an easy one to overlook, but was there plenty of advertising for the home ports? Maybe. Might just have been when there's one of those Space Invaders crazes. I don't know why there's a big butterfly, but there you go, there's a big butterfly. Oh, you get a special attack, you see? I mean, I don't know how many of those I get. This is almost the reverse of the Nintendo one I mentioned earlier, where the aliens split. Here they're actually getting bigger when I shoot them. The split mechanic does appear, I think, later in this game, if not in Space Invaders 95. Yeah, I guess there's probably a team of people still there at Taito thinking, what can we do next with Space Invaders? You know, what can we throw in the mix for the next version? The ones you see in the arcades these days are just big redemption games, ticket-winning things, and they're very flashy. Find them at cinema and bowling alleys and the like. But there's not much in the way of gameplay. Yeah. Obviously, I don't think Taito even need to make more games. They can. It's such an iconic image. They can sell merchandise, and you know, for the next 20 years and be fine. But they do still make the odd thing. There we go. But yeah, this one really sets in motion the type of changes you would see in Space Invaders 95, which I'll bring up shortly. I'm skipping. I'm skipping. Recording does sometimes interfere with the frame rate a little bit. That was bad. Yeah. Well, LARP Space Invaders. That's a concept. I can see people doing that. Yeah, actually, yeah, I can easily see people doing that, because you do get the whole D&D groups running around with plastic swords. So just mix that into Space Invaders universe, and yeah. Cattle mutilation. This is kind of what this one's famous for, isn't it? The UFOs trying to steal all the cattle. So whoever had the idea to do this was actually genius, because this is what a lot of the advertising I do remember was based around. Just these UFOs picking up the cattle, and it's just a small part of the game. But it's something people can associate with. Yeah, artistically, it doesn't fit the rest of the game at all. There we go. I've saved 4 cows. think for the CPC version, the very elderly were probably the target audience. It's just because it's that slow. You could just play that while sleeping. Yeah. I don't remember the Futurama episode. I'm sure I've seen it because I've seen all the Futurama episodes, but it's not something I remember off the top of my head. Futurama PS2 game was good though. That's definitely underrated. I don't know if you've got that one, but that's worth a play. Right, that's Super Space Invaders 91. And yes, I even remember to change the title. Shall I jump to Space Invaders 95 while I'm doing the ones that are mostly interesting? I wanted to space them out a bit, but you're streaming for an hour now, and this was meant to be a fairly short test stream. SPC Inv 95. Okay. Super Space Invaders. No, not Super Space. Space Invaders 95. Attack of the Lunar Loonies. It's quite a subtitle. I think one thing I appreciate here is they've kept it vertical. It would have been so easy to just switch to a horizontal screen, like so many others did for, you know, easier swaps. But they have kept the games vertical, which I just think is so much of a better look for an arcade game. Obviously, here, by the mid-90s, you've got sort of very colourful, maybe Saturn, PlayStation level colours. A bit more than the SNES, I'd say. But lots going on. Say they know their classic look. They start you off with the classic look. They morph it into this look. It's the presentation is just fantastic by this point. Maybe a bit too busy. I don't know. I think in terms of new shooting games, I do prefer Namco's Cosmo Gang, which is more like a Gallagher upgrade. But yeah, it's gone very cutesy, hasn't it? That is Taito. I mean, their best games are all the cutesy ones. They're the ones people. I mean, you've got Charge Shot now as well. Of course, you can take out rows of them. But yeah, you look at Pop and Pop. You look at Bubble Bobble. They're all cutesy ones. It was really their look. The games are not easy. You look at something like Bubble Bobble or Rainbow Islands, there's so many secrets in them. You know, they might seem simple on the surface, but they're not. And I'm sure there's just as many little secrets in something like this that I'm unaware of because I've never really studied it in any great detail. I'm not sure what these are meant to be. There are all sorts of places you get Invader cameos too, bosses in other games. not. Yeah, there was that whole thing where if it wasn't 3D, nobody was interested, especially outside of Japan. In Japan, there's loads of good 2D stuff in the PlayStation, Saturn era, but outside of Japan, yeah, 2D stuff, magazines didn't want to hear about it, publishers didn't want to hear about it. Which is a shame, because in terms of what the generation was capable of, 2D is probably actually its strength, which is why the 2D games have aged so much better than the early 3D ones. Oh dear. That's not good. You do get to continue on this though, which feels like cheating on the Space Invaders game, but it's what got in games by then. But yeah, Saturn, huge 2D rotating planes, sprites that were fully distortable. You could do some really nice 2D on that. I think you're kind of seeing that now though, because people have stopped caring so much about everything having to be 3D. So you're getting a lot of good 2D games that you can think, this should have existed back in the day, but people weren't interested in making it. This one, I mean, this is on F3 hardware, which this isn't using that many of the effects compared to what the hardware's capable of. You can do all sorts of blending and zooming and the like, but I guess it doesn't need to, does it? I think people have also come to the conclusion that 3D doesn't always mean better gameplay. It's something extra you have to think about, but then would you rather think about some game mechanic instead of thinking about an extra dimension? Yeah, again, like Pop and Pop, this one is absolutely worth playing. And yeah, there were some of the sequels on F3 that I wasn't too keen on. The Arkanoid Returns thing is it doesn't look good at all. It's got those nasty digitized pre-rendered type of backgrounds and doesn't really add much to the gameplay. But this is cute and fun, and yeah, if you want to play a, I say modern, it's from '95. You want to play a Space Invaders game that doesn't look like it's from the 70s, then this is a nice little one to have a look at. Okay, let's go with an oddity. Alien Invaders. A 3D Sonic, yeah. I think Sonic Mania really showed up Sega there, because Sonic Mania comes out, everybody loves it because it plays like a proper Sonic game in 2D. It works in 2D. Sonic doesn't work in 3D. You can put 3D segments in between 2D ones, but I think that's why you never got a 3D Sonic game on the Saturn. It's because they couldn't make it work, and they never did manage to make it work, really. But they were stuck trying, and the market wanted a 3D game, and they couldn't make one. Alien Invaders. No, wrong one. There's so many games with Alien Invaders. This one is strange. This was a tiny little bar top cabinet that doesn't really look like it was actually designed for an arcade, with a screen that has, say, 128 by 128 pixel resolution, which is tiny, and the only markings on it suggest it is by Forbes. and we don't know when it was made. It looks more like a handheld game, but it's not. Again, this is just one of those real oddities that showed up, you know, completely out of the blue. It's like, this was for sale. It was picked up, it was dumped, and it's really a mini arcade cabinet that accepts coins. You could operate in an arcade, but I think it must have been made as some sort of collectible item, but I really don't know. It could even be newer than the 80s, but it doesn't make much sense. We don't really know much about it. But it exists. And that's about all I can say. It's just Space Invaders with a very low resolution screen. And yeah, it's one of those things that's really fascinating. If you find something, emulate it, it can be a generic Space Invaders clone. But then you think somebody spent time programming this, somebody made this was an actual product. And yeah, had Space Invaders never existed, this would have never existed, even if it's not licensed. And we know very little about it. Let's clear a wave. Yeah, it was probably intended for a similar market to the Arcade 1-Up stuff, but much earlier. Or maybe not much earlier, I don't know, but that, oh yeah, I want a mini arcade cabinet at home, this looks good, it's got something that looks like Space Invaders on it, I'll buy it. And I guess if you like Space Invaders and you wanted to impress some friends with a mini cabinet before those things were really popular, then it would have done the trick. Anyway, I don't think we need to look too much more at that one. Right, I've got a list more ports. We'll have another look at another TV plug and play. This one is quite easy to get off eBay, but it's not great. This is the Radica Space Invaders 5-in-1 unit. It's a little thing you plug into the TV, again fully licensed by Taito. And it's got Space Invaders, a really rough version of Lunar Rescue that's missing most of the sounds, Colony 7 kicks, and Phoenix. Phoenix is by far the best thing on here. But we're not playing Phoenix. Although Phoenix is an interesting one, because it's not one people widely think is a Taito game, but maybe they own the rights to it now, or I really don't know. Kicks, I really don't understand why they include in these compilations, and it's in another one as well. Colony 7, nobody cares about it. It was a bad missile command game with a joystick. Lunar Rescue, yeah, it's alright, but it's a bad port. And then Space Invaders. People have said this, or classed this as a Family clone, a NES clone, but it isn't. It still uses a 6502 based processor, but it's original architecture. And so this isn't just the Famicom version of Space Invaders, this is a new port. And it does play more like Space Invaders than the one on the VG Caplet. But again, it's definitely not arcade perfect, and this was released in the mid-2000s. Yeah, again, fun emulating these things. This one set me on a whole journey down emulating these ELAN based platforms, because it's one of those things that until this was dumped, people hadn't really considered it possible to dump these things, and then it's like, well, what hardware does it run on? And you find out it's a 6502 with weird custom interrupts, and I talk it up, see how it works, and eventually you get a playable game. And then we find there's a whole bunch of other stuff on the same kind of hardware, and that's how these things tend to go. But yeah, it's an okay version of Space Invaders that you could play at home, but I'm not sure it's really that interesting or worthwhile. Jack Specific also put out a Taito Space Invaders unit. That one's not emulated yet, but I'm pretty sure that one is just based on running emulators, so if you bought that one, you'd just be buying an emulated version of Space Invaders to play. The Jack's one, because it's done by Code Mystics and it's got other things on there like Bubble Bobble, which annoys me because it's a single joystick, and anybody who's played Bubble Bobble knows well that to complete Bubble Bobble and get the good endings, you need 2 players, and if there's no way to add in a second player, then why would you want to play Bubble Bobble on the device? Yeah, probably, yeah, somebody likes Space Invaders. Oh, I'll get them because it plugs into the TV. It's a novelty product. You would probably have had a better way to play these games by then, but if you want something with a Taito license, it looks alright. You put it on the shelf, you don't really play it. Anyway, sure, I quit out that. That's just Space Invaders, isn't it? Sure, everybody knows. Well, not everybody, maybe not every. Invaders. You know what Invaders is? Invaders has no sound hardware. It was released in 1990 by Taito. And yeah, it's a test board, because cabinets sold in Japan had to come with some sort of board so that they could be tested. So this tiny little board with no sound output that's meant to just display black and white and maybe change your colour when you get hit. This was created for that purpose. There's a Konami mole game too for a similar reason. But it's Space Invaders with one invader. Now it's Space Invaders with a pattern. This was never really meant to be played by the public. If you saw this on location for actually putting coins in, you knew you were a very cheapskate arcade that really didn't want to spend any money on an actual board. Was the Space Invaders emulator ported to the CPC like it was the Spectrum? I say emulator in inverted quotes because it's really just a port, an exact translation, you know, the original code running with some modifications to change the video hardware. I know the Spectrum got it, but I don't know if the CPC did. I've not looked. It's not bad if you wanted to look at it, but it's not on my list. But yeah, Minivader. There's really nothing to say about Minivader itself. There was something else about that. I think somebody did some homebrew on this hardware, which does actually push the hardware a bit further. But yeah, a little test board. That's what that was. Let's have a look at that. Again, this one's going to be another quick one. So hold on. Silver Anniversary, Inv Quicks, that's what it's called. Kicks, even Kicks. Inv Kicks. Another anniversary product, this one from 2003. Same But this is the lower budget one, not the one on PlayStation hardware. And again, they've paired Space Invaders with Kicks. This was an arcade. It's oddly running on H8 based hardware, which is a strange choice for something like this. But you get the choice of the two games. I don't know why you'd want to play Kicks, but it's an official re-release of Space Invaders. Again, though, while it's a proper Space Invaders game, and it plays like Space Invaders, looks like Space Invaders, why wouldn't you just keep the Space Invaders DX cabinet, which has the extra game modes? Seems like a pointless product, but there's no remix modes or anything in this one. It's just the plain games, 2 of them, which is fine. But I mean, it shows that they can just keep selling the game again and again and again. There's a similar thing for Nintendo, Donkey Kong and Mario, although that one's not emulated yet because it's got some protection of some sort. Yeah, I can see that. I wonder. It's possible that maybe the design's slightly influenced by that. Just putting a big robotic body. I mean, personally, this one's interesting because of the architecture it runs on, which is completely different to Space Invaders. And again, I don't think this will be emulated, so it's going to be a port. It's not going to be anything special. The thing is, with these versions, you're not going to get the big impressive cabinet from the original either. If you know the proper looks 70s cabinet with the planet background. I guess this is more like it just end up sort of in a chip shop or something like that. I guess takeaway. Yeah, I can't say much more about this one. It's a 2-in-1 with Space Invaders in it that was officially released to the arcades. This one's going to be risky. Well, get working. Unknown space. The Unknown Space Invaders gambling game, which is not going to be gambling on here, but this carries the Space Invaders name as a gambling game, but it's obviously not a licensed product. We don't know what it's actually called. It was just sold as Space Invaders gambling game, and it's barely playable. In fact, if you coin it up in the default mode, it's some sort of poker game where your fire is your bet. Yeah, it's well, I don't know what the keys are. It's just using a Space Invaders mask, maybe more, you know, which ones you hold and which ones you yeah, but there's a way to get the actual Space Invader. No. But yeah, if the place didn't want it to look like they were running a gambling game, they'd set it in Space Invaders mode, so it just looked like they had this really bad Space Invaders game. It's a very shady business. But yeah, again, a random thing that was influenced by Space Invaders that nobody should ever have to play. I don't know if I think BBC games generally look better than that and play better than that. That's just a throwaway junk. Shall we have a look at a rather obscure port? Okay, I did cover this one on one of my write-ups years ago. It's a home port to a system I've never heard of. An unofficial clone, more so than a port, I should say. What is an APF Electronics Inc. M1000 Space Destroyer? Destroyers. This is a home computer I've never heard of. But yes, it has some sort of Space Invaders type game. It's very slow. The system is apparently from 1978 or something like that. But yeah, if you like your old computers, it's a Space Invaders game. I don't know if the CPC version of Super Space Invaders even runs in main. I should probably try it, shouldn't I? I think the brick wall and the tank give this a more of a Namco Battle City feel to it. Even though the game's obviously not Battle City, it's Space Invaders. I actually like the little alien graphics on this one though. Like got double arms and the ones in the middle. Sort of, they look like sort of bats, I don't know. It's quite nice. It does a better job than a lot of the others. Okay. Yeah, maybe little rabbits, you're right. I don't know. This is a perfectly playable old home computer that I've never heard of. And I doubt anybody has sat down and streamed a version of Space Invaders called, what was it, Space Destroyers? I mean, that's the thing with Space Invaders. It was so popular, people ported or copied it everywhere. And quite often they did an okay job. Sometimes they didn't. I don't think so. I couldn't find the closest I got with the LCD ones is the ones I looked at earlier, which again I thought were licensed, but looking at it again probably weren't. There are some modern ones released in the last few years with tiny LCD screens that do have a proper Taito license on, which are probably as close as you're going to get to a Tiger one if there wasn't one. I don't know. I don't know everything that was made. I think Tiger tended to go for the more ambitious games that didn't really work because they were too ambitious, left too much to the imagination. It's when they kept things simple they tended to be better. If the Gauntlet one, which was reskinned as Robin Hood, is actually really playable. But then you try and play the Jurassic Park thing, you don't know what's going on at all. Or, you know, Sonic. That is definitely worse than the Game Boy Advance Sonic. Game Boy Advance. Oh, I forgot to change the title again, didn't I, on that one? Never mind. This is going to take some getting used to. Let's have a look at the Game Boy Advance. Because it did get the Space Invaders. I put the title thing there because so that people don't have to ask what the game is, but then if I don't update it, it doesn't help. Game Boy Advance. I have never played this on an original Game Boy Advance. I did try it earlier and it seemed a bit fast, but that might just be how it is. Activision, you say? Forest Games. Radio. Chair's probably creaking a bit there. Oh, nice re-imaging of the title. Be a classic, because the new mode is a bit flashy. But yeah, it's Space Invaders on a small screen that seems, as I say, very fast. I'm thinking this might not be running at the correct speed, but I've never played it on hardware to compare. Or maybe they just liked it to go fast. Just make it a little more challenging. Yeah, I think there's probably factors in the original hardware that slow things down that aren't emulated. There's another that I'm going to look at in a bit where I've had to recompile MAME to run the CPU at about a quarter of the speed because the default speed is unplayable. And I found a video of the real system and it's a lot closer to running it about half to a quarter. But yeah, again you can see this game got everywhere. And this is obviously a licensed version. Hi Brian, thank you for tuning in. I think is Jake still here as well, or is Jake gone? We've been looking at lots of different ports and clones of Space Invaders. Played the official sequels already, but here we've got a Game Boy Advance version in classic mode. Actually, let's put this in the newer mode because there is more to this one. All right, good to know, Jake. There is more to this one, and because I think by the time the GBA was out, people did want a bit more than a plain Space Invaders clone on their home systems. So you do get this mode which, you know, looks all fancy and doesn't really feel like Space Invaders anymore. But let's see, this doesn't feel too fast. This feels nice and smooth, and I think the Game Boy Advance has a really good library of games behind it that, again, seem to get overlooked because it was a handheld system. But if you stack this up against, say, a Mega Drive or a SNES, it's a newer generation of 2D. The resolution does hurt it a bit because it's a handheld, but with the processor behind it, there's quite a few good games. I'm not really a fan of the Sonic games of this generation, not even outside of the terrible port of Sonic 1. But overall, it feels like one of those systems where there's a library of games I should really be checking out a bit more. Yeah, I think those are the new ones with the very bright, flashy, psychedelic screens as well, like loads of colour cycling. And they print out tickets. There's one around here, if it's still there when everything reopens. Right. I wonder if the camera's still in sync. I might actually put myself on the camera. There we go, you see, I am still here. But yeah, I figured maybe just leave it as a picture of the Space Invader. But yeah, still seems in sync. Okay, because that was one of the issues I was having the other day off stream, is that the camera was going quite badly out of sync, and I don't know why. Yeah, Pac-Man and Space Invaders, there's always going to be something new with them. But yeah, the Pac-Man one's got games on the consoles, isn't it? I was seeing my brother play one the other day, commenting on how can Pac-Man be so difficult. But yeah, let's say Namco have done a really good job with Pac-Man. I think more so than Taito with Space Invaders. If you look at the Pac-Man anniversary games, the newer ones, there's more to them. not really seen recently a Space Invaders game that's been more than just flashy. I'm not a big fan of these play for ticket games anyway, though. They do look nice, but there's no gameplay. It's back to the you pay for an amount of time really, and then you're off the machine however you play. Get some tickets and never really collect anything of worth with them. But, I'm sure there'll be a time for a Pac-Man stream as well one day. I'm not sure when the anniversaries are. I didn't even know the Space Invaders one here was coming up until I saw this one. Anyway, this is the Game Boy Advance Space Invaders. I'm going to look at Space Cyclone actually, because it's related. It's old, but it's related. This was a very, very rare one that cost an absolute fortune to buy the board off and get dumped. And then a few years later, Taito actually did put it on an official compilation, which was the 40th anniversary one 2 years ago. But you can see it's got these invader-like characters. You have to shoot a quota of them. Alright, take care. Thank you for dropping in anyway. It's good to see you. I'll see you on Zai's streams probably. I think he's streaming tonight. Or if not, probably the am streaming on Friday. But yeah, these are invader-like creatures. Enough that you know, Taito decided to put this on the anniversary thing, so it must be considered canon in that sense. They're definitely invading. They definitely seem to. And then this big thing flies up and fires a laser at you that you have to dodge. I do like this. I'm completely out of practice. When I did the emulation of it, I could actually get quite a few stages, but now I'm going to die. Yep, I'm going to die. The thing is, with these randomly moving, what got me? Randomly moving enemies, they're very difficult to shoot. I think this one should have been more popular than it was, but it must have been producing minuscule numbers. There's a lot going on, so it's worth checking out if you've not checked it out. I'll give it another credit. No, I'm not doing well enough to be worth playing this credit. Where now? Shall I have a look at the Bandai Supervision 8000 Missile Vader? That's what it's called. Missile Vader, yes. This is another very old computer. This is the one where I had to reduce the clock speed of the Z80 to have it at a playable speed. When's this machine from? Apparently 1979, so it's another old machine. But here we go. I think there's... No, it's... Again, this looks primitive. But it is primitive. It's not a capable machine in any way. And if you wanted Space Invaders at home, after playing it in an arcade, sort of end of the 70s, this is what you might have to play. And it gets the basics of the game right, just on a reduced scale. Again, no license here. This is not an official port, and yeah, that is annoying. If you've got a bullet on the screen, you can't fire another, and they take forever to leave the screen. And that was me failing. I don't know if 3's faster. Probably not, because I think the timing in the emulation is wrong, so maybe it's meant to be faster. But yeah, primitive. But still. Another that without Space Invaders not exist. I don't think there's much more to show on this one, is there? Did I do it? I don't even know if this works. This might not work in main. And if it does... normal. Hey? So many French cracked CPC games. Does it work? Or are you saved? Is that start game? I can't start the game. You might actually be saved because I don't know what the keys are. Input this machine. This is not. Slot devices. I think any of those will help. In configuration, 2-button joystick is plugged in. That is not what starts the game. Yeah, I'm not sure I can start this one. I mean, you're not missing much. Oh no, here we go. It's just so bad you have to press start at the right time. Or Joy 1? I don't know. What's this? Okay. Oh dear. Yes. Super Space Invaders for the Amstrad CPC. A full price game, I believe. That is definitely worse than Bridget. I mean, it's not just slow, the frame rate is tragic. The control response, it feels like it's playing in treacle. And you can't tell what anything is. It's in the high colour mode, but they've used about 6 colours on the background, so it doesn't even look like the high colour mode. Half the screen is the status bar, and it's still slow. This is one of those games that is just impossible to explain. It's one of those where maybe it's worth taking the code apart just to see where all the performance is going. What's it doing? Is it redrawing every pixel of the screen, every frame or something? Because it doesn't make sense. The CPC can definitely move more than this amount. It doesn't get faster when there's no aliens either. It's constantly slow. And yeah, oh, there's the butterfly thing. Oh dear. I am glad I never owned this one. I mean, you talk about there being overpriced, terrible games today. But yeah, there were some like this back then that make those look good. Or most of them. There are probably still some that cannot be redeemed today, but... Ow. How many levels of this shall I play? I mean, part of me thinks quit now. It does have the features in. I mean, you know, they've got the doubling up alien there. I wonder if anybody's going to remake this and show what the system could have done. Okay. Oh dear. Okay, this is just torture. Yeah, this can go away. This can go away. You like the art style in that port? I think the art style is just like that because they didn't use many colours. I know that there are filter effects. Like, is it posterize or something like that? You're doing Photoshop to get that type of effect on an image. I don't know. It's been a while since I've tried to do strange effects on images. But yeah, it's if you compare it to the original that we played earlier, I think they've just taken it and ran it through some filters to reduce the colours and reduce the resolution, and it makes it really difficult to actually see the sprites too. I don't know. It must have looked good in screenshots. People sport it. But yeah, it's not. The CPC can do some really nice pieces of art. I think if you'd seen some of the other things, especially some of the modern things people have drawn on it, there's some beautiful pieces of art. Spanish games as well back in the day. They hold up really, really well. But yeah, if you consider it a style, yeah. Okay, there's what else I got on my list? Don't really want to look at those. No, it's terrible to play. I mean, this is what we had to suffer with back in the day. Let's look at another Omari game that's an old one. Space Gorilla. Space G? Yeah, Omari 1979. I don't know if this is really 1979 because this is actually nice and colourful. Your bases are little cities, there's colour. It's not quite Space Invaders. Again, this one was ridiculously expensive. But it's got colour, it's got animations on the little UFO, and it's got blinking stars. And it's not just copying Space Invaders. I don't know what's beeping. And then the game formula is basically the same, but This one actually looks quite nice for 70s, assuming it's really 70s. Space Invaders type thing. I almost didn't include this one though, because it doesn't have that left-right block movement of enemies that I really associate with a proper Space Invaders game. Come on, there you go. Alright, thank you, Jake. It's really good to see you dropping in. I have to have a proper catch up at some point, but yeah, I do really appreciate people I know dropping in the stream, because you know, not got to see people much recently, and yeah, it's good to know that you've got an interest in this type of thing too, because I do sometimes worry about talking about things. But yeah, take care, have a good day. Right. Anyway, Space Gorilla. Omori. Oh, I forgot to update the title of the last few games, but never mind. That's something I will keep in mind in the future. Right, I have a whole list now of things that I don't really think are going to be that interesting to stream, so I'll probably pass on those. And I will therefore call it here as well. So thank you for everybody for tuning in. This is obviously only the second proper broadcast I've done, and see there's Syntax Horror followed me while the stream is active, so thank you to Syntax Horror too, and obviously Rocket Knight Sparkster, who was in the chat, so thank you there. And yeah, I think this has turned out okay. Few minor issues, but that has been a whole bunch of Space Invaders related material for the 42nd anniversary of Space Invaders. And thank you to everybody who joined in and everybody who's watched this in their own time. Obviously hit follow, or if you're on Twitch, or you know, subscribe on YouTube, and I'll try and produce more content when I have time to. Anyway, that's all for now. Goodbye.